you something.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm
You got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky?
Good evening, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever, whenever, however you all are. Welcome to Toxic Tuesday. Guys, it is a pleasure, a divine pleasure to see you all here tonight. What's up, everybody? Let's look at those faces here. What's up, Grim? Nick the Greek, Tornadoes, Darth Viewer. What's up, Darth Viewer? D-Bud Martin, Jonathan Conroy, DJ Play Nice. What's up, dude? And then, whoa! Tornadoes just starts out the show with $50. And he just says, vacation fun. He's crazy. But I like him. I like crazy. I like crazy. Tornadoes, you're a madman. I'm just existing and breathing. And then he just says, oh, Nick, hey, I'm just going to do this, by the way. No big deal. Tornadoes, thank you very much. So that is very, very generous. I will promise, and I will make it my mission to make it known that this $50 will not be blown off in vain. This will be applied to something very good and very useful. So thank you, sir. That's a hell of a bang to start the show with the 50, man. Woo! Yeah, no pressure. That's a all right, we're gonna make it good tonight. We're gonna make it damn good. Obviously Mark and 70s will be here in a minute. But we're gonna bring in our guy, Just Another Red Shirt here, because we love our red shirt here. How's it going, Just Another Red Shirt?
It's going great. Yeah, looking forward to this discussion. I think this could be stentorious voice, radio announcer voice that I learned from Tom Connors. This could be an historic edition of Toxic Tuesday.
It really is. It's really rare where we go into something where there's a subservient amount of action, but there's a lot of drama. I think the last time we did something that was really heavy on the drama was either when we did Tombstone way back when, or was it Goodfellas? We did those two. I think we did them close around each other. So it was around that time. And since then, it's kind of been action or comedy. Nothing that's been really heavy and emphasizing on the drama. But this was a good pick. And you know what? Once again, when the market speaks and when the people have spoken, you got to lean there, because we did a vote and 60% responded with Hero, which, by the way, Romeo Must Die will, for those who voted for that other movie, I get you, I hear you. You will have your turn when we do a Jet Li month. a whole month of Jet Li movies. So that will be the first movie that we do for that Jet Li month to make up for that. But I gotta give it to those who voted because originally Hero was at like 80%. It was like an 80-20. And by the time the polls were done, it was 60-40. So it's clear that Romeo Must Die absolutely has its fans, much like Hero before it.
Yeah. It's this is, and I will just say to the folks, this is a movie I saw for the first time 2 days ago. It was not what I was expecting at all. I've seen a number of Jet Li movies. Maybe one that even remotely reminds me of this, but this is literally a historic tale. It's like a myth, a creation myth. So yeah, I sat there and was like, what is this? And then I got into it and it's like, this is great. So looking forward to this conversation.
No, it is definitely one to be looking forward to. Once again, it's amazing how rich. And before we'll make this part of the conversation until Mark. Oh, Mark's right here. I had a whole other backup conversation, but I guess we don't need to get into that because Mark was able to get it up early.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but the stupid talk studio wouldn't let me in for the last 5 minutes.
You're leveling back around. It started off loud, but you're already leveling back around. So
now it's coming. Yeah, I don't know. Something said I had no internet, and I'm like, everything else is working.
Vince!
You wait till the last minute. You wait till the last minute to get in, and then I'm finishing stuff, and then oh, it'll be no problem to log right on. Then it doesn't let you log on. It's like I went to ship something with at FedEx today, not to bore you with work stuff. It's like, you're 15 minutes before FedEx closes and the computer's like, server has no internet connection, cannot ship. I'm like, well, why don't you tell me that 3 hours ago?
Yeah, right? No kidding.
Bastards, yeah. So, anywho, I got, let me get the slideshow queued up.
Yeah, well, you get it up. Why don't you tell the chat how you doing, sir?
Oh, doing most excellent. Let me get this light in here so you can see my ugly mug. So, all right. So let's. I'm just not happy about the fan.
We like it. Okay. So don't go about this ugly mug. We are fans. All 30 of you in the chat. We are fans of Mark D with a C. We are huge diabolical fans of Mark D with a C. Greatest one. Okay, that's the best prank you pulled in a long time, Mark. That's actually really good. I'm just saying, man.
Because I started watching the movie and it was in subtitles. I'm like, this can't be a Toxic Tuesday movie. It's like, as Red Shirt was saying, it's way too historical, way too, too legit. So I'm you must have been doing the Greatest American Hero pilot, right, or the 2-hour movie. That's what I assumed. It's got Connie Selick, although. Come on.
All right, we got following up the Great Tornadoes is the delightful Nick the Greek for $4.99. He says martial arts and music share the same principles, much as Toxic Tuesday shares the same principles of the gay. Ancient Chinese proverb. I see what you did there with that line of the movie. Oh, that is genius. Oh, that's so it's true. I mean, you can't point to where that's wrong. You could try and you will absolutely fail, but it's true. It's just that we are sometimes some things are just synonymous with one another. And this is one of those things where Toxic Tuesday, we're just really synonymous with the homoeroticism within us.
Once in a while, not all the time, right now. Yeah.
No, this movie, we were just saying, Mark, before you got here, how the last time we did a movie that really had a heavy emphasis on drama was either Goodfellas or Tombstone, which when we did those two, they're kind of fairly close to each other, but it goes to show you how long it's been since we kind of more or less cover this type of territory.
It's been a while, yeah. Well, the name of the show is Toxic Tuesday, so why'd you give people a choice? I mean, I do love this movie, but
why?
It's not democracy here, right? It's a dictatorship.
I haven't done a poll. I hadn't done a poll in a long time, and I'm like, you know what? I used to do those a lot when Toxic Tuesday is starting up, and then
Yep.
I was like, I want to give it back to the people. I want them to have the power. And I said, you know what? I have ideas, but let's see what they're feeling. And, kind of getting repetitive territory for you, Mark, just so you understand.
Yeah.
Chat, apologies. I know you'll understand. But apologies anyway. Yeah, I decided, okay, Hero. I had a lot of requests for Hero. And then some people
Yep.
were kind of coming out of the woodworks with Romeo Must Die. I'm like, we'll have these two square off against each other. And then, when I did the polls, originally Hero was having a blowout. It was 80-20, but by the time the poll concluded, it ended up being 60% Hero, 40% Romeo Must Die. So it's clear that there's quite a bit of an audience for Romeo Must Die as well. Sure, it didn't win, but the fact that it had such a sharp turnaround, that's incredible. It's a testament that how big of a base of great movies Jet Li has, how passionate that audience is. And I've decided for when we do our Jet Li month, which will probably be in the summer, we're gonna kick it off with that movie. And yes, don't worry, Retro, we will have Kiss of Death in there too. Don't you freaking worry about
Kiss
that.
of the Dragon. Yes.
No, it's like Kiss of the Dragon. Well, I don't know why I keep calling it that, but you.
Yeah.
All right.
Now I have a question for you. I have a question for you guys, because
Sure.
Again, this is the first time I've seen this. I watched this, and I watched the English version, which means it was dubbed.
I've never seen the English version of this ever. So go on.
Oh wow!
Whoa!
I was wondering what you guys watched. Yep.
Okay. Well, I as soon as I heard the king that he has the audience with speak, and he's coming into the throne room now, I was like, I know that voice, and I looked it up on IMDb. James Hong did the English dub for the King of Chin in this movie. Him, James Hong did his voice in the English dub. So I would have to say, they didn't get a bunch of Californians to do like they do video games. They didn't get a bunch of Californian posers to do and screw up the dubs. I suspect that the English version is probably pretty much what these subtitles are showing, from what I remember. So I would say the English version of this is not something to avoid. It still works.
I'm actually shocked because I actually went out of my way to avoid that because I had a hard time imagining that would work half as well as the original version. So, but that's actually really reassuring to know, Redshirt, because that's not something I would have expected. Even though this came out way before, let's just say, the Dark Ages. Oh, look, it's that 70s rock fan.
Good evening, everybody. My apologies for being late.
The sheep were complaining about you, dude.
Oh, they're always complaining. They all want my attention. I can't play favorites. I have to share that attention equally amongst the whole flock.
Well, I wish you the
You must be
freaking
tired.
best and good luck at that.
I am tired.
She can get exhausting. But good to see you, buddy. Happy you're here. And Keely Chow's a great comment. It's like, we need to do the wrestling comedy Ready to Rumble. I agree. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned it because that's not crossed my mind. We're going to do that. And you know what? Because you mentioned it, Keely Chow, we're going to do that soon, like within the next few months soon. Okay? I will slide that in there. I don't know how, but I will find a way to squeeze that one in there. And we're going to like it and we're going to feel good. And then Nick the Greek for another $1.99 says, "Crouching sheep hitting Scotsman."
What was the one I saw? I saw and it was porn kind of parody. Couching woman hidden cucumber.
No. We had a really essential scene before the current essential scene where we saw Jet Li disrobe, and you learn that under his outfit, he's just a naked man under a giant big robe. I was like, what the fuck? He's naked? What?
Everyone's naked under their clothes, Nick.
But not those type of clothes. That's like We have like regular clothes, and we have a jacket, maybe a trench coat. He just has that freaking gown, whatever. I don't know what they call it. If you're out there in your
I
Chinese,
think a
please
robe is
correct me.
probably a good way of putting it. I don't know if it's got an official name.
I apologize
Amazon
if there's a name
underwear was
that I'm
back
wrong
order.
on.
Underwear was on back order on Amazon back then.
And the fact that
These
like,
guys' swords are
inspecting his
very floppy
armpits-
here. I think they need some help with these floppy swords. I mean, they're
You
flopping
just
all
don't
over the
want
place.
floppy ones, do you? Nobody wants a
Yeah.
floppy one.
Mark,
Like, what's
you
going
can't
on here?
always have it straight. You gotta understand. Sometimes you gotta come to grips with the reality that it's not gonna always stand straight. Sometimes you gotta have a little wiggle room, and you gotta work
Yep.
with what you got. And sometimes what
Okay.
you got bends over a little. And in this case, against the great Donnie Yen,
Look at that
these
one.
guys, dude, man. All these
that's
guys,
the flop.
you can tell they have erectile dysfunction with their
That one's
swords. You
just-
see, they're like, "Oh,
It's
dude,
limp. It's positively limp, that sword.
Every one of those guys should go back to the sword maker who made them their swords and demand their money back.
fix my shaft."
Because springy, flexible is one thing, bent is another.
Right.
They need their
So I wanted to ask you
fixed.
guys a question because I just caught the tail end of what you were saying before I came in. Do you guys watch foreign movies in their original language with subtitles or the English dubs?
Always
Dude,
subtitles.
for me, I was the English subtitles. Like I got
You do
watch the movie in
subtitles.
Japanese. It's the only version I've ever watched. I've kind of made it a point to do that. Actually, I've
Yeah.
never. Yeah, now Red Shirts kind of convinced me in a way to, give the other version a try because of how authentic it sounds. Which now that I'm hearing that, I'm actually kind of convinced over 20 years later to incline myself to give it a shot. But for a long time, I was just kind of like, no, I don't think I will. But now,
So
I
you're
think I
saying
will.
you listen to it in the foreign language and read the subs?
Yes.
Yeah. What about Mark? What did you say?
Yeah, I can read, so I always go with the subtitles.
read.
I'm surprised.
You can
do
read?
surprise me. You surprise me, but yes. Red Shirt, are you a dub man, Red Shirt?
In this case, it was the one free version of the movie I found.
Oh, okay,
So I
that
watched. I
Does
watched the
make a
dub.
difference. Yeah. No,
But as I
I'm-
was before you came in, I was saying that the king is voiced by James Hong, and looking at the rest of the basically the voice actors who did the dubs, this is basically English speaking Chinese actors.
yeah.
So it works well. It's not. I was comparing it to
Yeah,
modern video
yeah.
games, Japanese video games, or something, or anime, where they just hire people at random to
Mhm.
record it. I didn't realize this was a dub until I went to IMDb and found out that there were
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people who were credited as voices only.
Yeah, I believe Donnie Yen's character was dubbed by One Hung Lo, I believe, was the. So I always watch in the original language, if at all possible, with English subtitles because I can't stand the lips not moving in sync, and it just sounds weird to hear them speaking English when you know it's not in English. So I prefer subtitles because I can read too, Mark.
That's amazing. Yeah. Who would have thunk? But
Yeah.
I think you too. You miss what the actors' intonation,
the
is. As good
emphasis,
as
yeah.
like Richard is saying, these guys did a really good job. So that's probably the exception rather than the norm. Because most of the time when I watch subtitles, I mean the classic, like some of the Godzilla stuff. As a kid, you grew up watching it, and the mouths are moving, and it's off, and you just wonder about how they're emoting. Plus, like, we have some friends from abroad, and they came here, and they're like, we're watching Friends came on. They're like, that's not Rachel's voice. It's like, it was like freaking them out because they were used to the dub.
It's weird. It doesn't-
Yeah,
like,
there is a stand-up comedian who once made fun of the English dubs of martial arts movies, where he said, he's miming mouth moving for about 10 seconds,
That's right.
and then without his mouth moving, he says like a ventriloquist, on a flight.
yeah.
So I've been
10
learning.
seconds. Yeah, 10 seconds of language, and then after he stops talking, the dub comes in. Want to fight?
And with Scottish, I need the
Stupid.
subtitles all the time. Anyway,
Oh well,
too,
I
so-
know people who watched Train Spotting in North America, and they had to have the subtitles on, even though it is in English theoretically.
Londoners, I saw a BBC interview with a Highlander Scotsman one time where the BBC subtitled him.
Oh,
Because-
absolutely, it's offensive.
Well, no, I
offensive
mean,
to
it's just
us
like
guys.
people in Southern England don't understand the accent. I thought that
Well,
was hysterical.
to them, all I can say is, "I'm going to pump your ma."
Oh!
So I'm
So-
actually learning Korean by watching all this Korean stuff, because I watch it in Korean with the English subtitles. I'm actually learning so many words. It's
Where's
incredible.
the real BBC? That's. I don't know if you're referencing the Nerdrotic As show, or if you're referencing the channel. Please clarify, Urkel, DiStefano, and welcome to Toxic Tuesday, dude. I saw a question here. I lost it. Let me try to get
BBC could
re-highlighted
mean
from
something else as well, of
Tornadoes.
course.
Yes, it could.
Oh, well, we all know that. I mean, we're on Toxic Tuesday. I noticed Jet Li movies are serious, whereas Jackie Chan's are more comedy as supposed to be. Yes and no. Jet Li has historically done a lot more serious movies. Jackie Chan has kind of been up and down, but definitely heavier emphasis on comedy as time went on. Like, he had his Police Story, Rumble in the Bronx, which were really consisting of the serious stuff. And there'd be, like, sprinkles of humor kind of planted in between. He has, like, a little bit of sprinkles on the cake, if you will. But then, the Mr. Nice Guy, the Rush Hours, a lot of the stuff he was in, the Shanghai movies, he was really going all in on the comedy while showing the stunts. So it's kind of like he was flip-flopping it. Soon,
I heard-
it was the comedy was the actual cake, and then the stunts then became the icing on the cake.
Well, Jackie
Or sorry,
Chan
sprinkles on the cake. Correcting
Yeah.
myself here.
Jackie Chan once actually said in an interview that when he was early in his career, I mean, you mentioned backstage, Nick. Yes, he was basically one of the stunt people for Bruce Lee.
Yes.
And when he started making movies, the Access Media started calling him the next Bruce Lee, and he's like, no, absolutely not. And he said this in an interview. And he said, in order to differentiate himself from Bruce Lee, he used to stand in front of a mirror and practice funny ways of blocking blows. So if Jackie Chan blocks a punch by putting his finger up, his index finger up, like, pay attention. That's actually him trying to inject humor into his martial arts. And he did that because he didn't want to be called the next Bruce Lee, because that was a pressure he didn't want.
Oh, I knew he had issues with the pressure of living up to being the next Bruce Lee, but I did not know that factored into that. It is actually, my mind's kind of blown by that.
Yeah, so that's why he's gotten into comedy in so many of his martial arts movies, because he tried to put comedy into just a straight up fight. And then said, well, if I really want to be different than Bruce Lee, I'll just make comedies. So he has made a lot of them. Jet Li didn't, and he became the next Bruce Lee, and he just ignored everybody.
Well, now, and it's best to do that because you want to be able to make your own legacy. It's like, it's one thing when you're influenced by a thing, but you don't want to be too close to that, because then that's all you're going to be compared to, and you don't want that. You want to be able to be, I want to be the first Jet Li. It's like, yeah, it sounds cool on paper to be the next Jackie Chan. Whoa, she's wet. Literally. But you want to be the very first Jet Li, and I feel like there's something more special about that than trying to be the next whatever. I get why, people in big industries do it. It sounds good on marketing and how you want to get someone propped up. But to me, there's just something far more special about someone who wants to stand on their own 2 feet as much as possible. It's nice to have the affiliations and the accolades that could come with that stuff, but there's something more memorable when someone says, no, I'm gonna do this. I can make my own legacy. And it worked out for Jet Li. I mean, obviously he was able to do a lot of his martial arts chops, but he definitely emphasized heavier overall on the dramatics. And this is something we covered a little bit last week on when we were talking The One, when we were saying, even though he's not someone who we consider an actor type, we now see 2 straight movies. Jet Li does deliver the goods when it comes to actual dramatic acting and having to, differentiate himself a bit. He actually is an actual actor. He isn't just a martial arts charismatic superstar that we love for the entertainment spectacle. We're just really fortunate he actually is able to nail it too. Something a lot of these great action heroes, don't get enough credit for, and it's really unfortunate because they see it because they're stunts. That's all they see them as what they're good for, and that they just must be a bunch of muscle heads, which couldn't be any further from the truth. And by the way, chat, I see you all in there. You guys are rocking this chat with the engagement. I see everyone's just commenting like crazy. Thank you, by the way. And Nick the Greek, Kung Pao is an inevitability. That's a promise, brother. So let's bring it back. Bring it back to here with Mark. By the way, slideshow's great. Thank you. Keep this going.
You're welcome. Yep.
I love right off the bat what I'm noticing when I saw it back in the day, and it's something doing a few rewatches of it within the last few days. I noticed this movie packs so much in there, and you could have swore it was a longer movie because of how much it packs. Not because it drags on. It's just because of how much is gone through. But then you actually look at the running time, it's not
an hour
even
and a
an
half.
hour and 40 minutes.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
And you're thinking it's a longer movie because of how much is covered. And usually when you have stories like this, you can actually get away with having a longer runtime because sometimes these type of grander stories kind of call for that longer runtime. So we can be a bit more forgiving by default on that because, we understand there's more layers here. You got to explain more layers. You got to show us more layers. We can be more forgiving. But this movie doesn't do that. And it feels really natural. Nothing about it feels like super duper skimmed over. It feels like we're getting all the details we need to know while still showing us how crazy it was at this point in time in China under a dictatorship. It's crazy what they accomplished in an hour and 35.
So it's okay if sometimes you don't last a really long time?
I think it's better if it's short. Get it over with.
That's what she said.
Get it over with.
The thing about this is that I want to take issue with something you said, Nick. Sure. At this point, China is not under a dictatorship. China is like 5 or 6 warring states that are constantly at war with each other. It's like a feud. This is like the Hatfields and McCoys feuding. And the whole point of the story is how is it possible to end all of this bloodshed warfare and just because it just doesn't end. That's what that opening is, with two armies facing each other, and this guy's surrounded by crossbow bolts in the wall behind him and in his desk, and he's writing something.
Yep.
It's very. How to explain this? Because I don't really understand it.
That's why it's like a myth or creation story. Yeah, it's like,
but it's
not based in reality. Just like the Bible would. Well, don't get me in trouble here for it, but just the Earth created in 7 days is a parable for whatever you believe.
But this is not just a myth. This is a creation story for China. But the thing is that the frame of reference, and God, this was taking me back to the brief time I studied martial arts, and I couldn't comprehend the philosophy they were talking about. The teachers, the senseis were talking about. The guy sitting there and writing is the Chinese, I'm sure would say, well, the reason that none of the bolts hit him is because he's busy. He's writing. He's doing what he should be doing, and you can't interrupt him. Even if even with a storm of arrows, he will not be touched. So the movie, if you look at IMDb, audiences were very mixed in the United States about this movie.
Yes.
People loved it, and other people were like, "Were we watching the same movie that you were?"
Yeah.
So
I remember being in the camp of loving this. I remember being in the camp of loving this. I was in 8th grade when this came out. And I remember like seeing the previews for this as a kid being stoked, which is really funny because I remember seeing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, kind of just not being as blown away as everyone else was by this. But something about this spoke to me so much more. And I saw a few friends and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And there is some artistic level to this movie that you can compare to Crouching Tiger. Was it taken influence by that? I mean, that's absolutely debatable because a lot of people got to remember the proper release schedule of this. The U.S. release schedule was 2004. The Asia side was 2002. Crouching Tiger was 2001. So by the time Crouching Tiger was released theatrically, this movie was already being filmed, if not just about done being filmed. Because a lot of movies are filming, if not done, by about a year before a movie comes out. So could this movie have adjusted to being influenced at the time? If so, that would be a very late term adjustment. If so, this is by the way, this is a A+ action scene that we're seeing from Maggie Chung right here. I love where she's using her dress
like a
to
dance.
freaking
Like a
ward
dance.
off a bunch
Incredible.
of bows. It is mind blowing to see her freaking do that. Like it is incredibly epic. And she is absolutely Flying Snow's her name. Yeah, Flying Snow. What an incredible scene. And I love how the one guy's just like, oh, just go back and sit down and just keep on working. And people get shot by the bows. It's wild, man.
Yep.
Just beautifully filmed and choreographed. Just everything about it is gorgeous.
It is.
Oh, the
Is this movie too
cinematography.
good for Toxic Tuesday?
No.
Far too good for those.
When the people vote, they get what they want. The customers can't.
All right.
If in Toxic Tuesday, what should have happened is by the end of this, her dress would have been ripped off completely. That would be Toxic Tuesday.
That would be.
What's that one girl's name got her dress ripped off in this movie? The girl that Moon. She actually had her dress ripped off by Broken Sword. Broken Sword
she's
just
gorgeous.
like
Yeah,
straight up just was like, I'm over the moon about you. Whoosh. And before you know it, they were doing the diddly. And Ned Flanders felt all okily dokily about it.
Yep. I mean, I just watched Bubba the Redneck Werewolf, before this movie. So
What a contrast.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Bubba the Redneck
This is-
Werewolf was fun.
I just want to throw this out there. You and I were talking about this earlier, Nick. Did one of these movies, did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon influence this or whatever? I think both of them come from the same tradition, and that tradition is Chinese opera. It's very formalized. The magic is a major part of it, which is how you get wire fu and people flying through the air. And that's not invented by Hong Kong kung fu movies. That is simply continuing a tradition. So this movie's continuing a tradition, just like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon did. I'm with you, though. I personally thought this was a much more exciting and interesting movie than Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which won, was definitely featured in the Academy Awards.
Did that
nominated.
win that year?
I think it did win Best Foreign Film. This movie was, as far as I could find in researching it, was never mentioned in the Academy. And I'm like, why not?
Right?
This
What
is
the
as good
hell,
or better
dude?
a film. But that one all of Hollywood just about salivated over. And this
Yeah, it was
movie just got ignored.
Yeah. Yeah. When
This
was
movie-
Crouching? Was that before this one or?
1 year before.
Okay.
This shows you could take an entertaining, a deep philosophical story and still make it entertaining and still have some really next level fights going on. And still, once again, as I mentioned, earlier, pack the story in a very tight running time. This movie did a major juggling. And on top of it, you have a great cast. I mean, once again, Donnie Yen, Tony Leung, Jet Li. Like, it is a really, cream of the crop cast. What's up, Mo Zamboni?
Yeah, superb.
How you doing? And welcome to Toxic Tuesday, E-Man357. enjoy your stay, dude. Okay, I love that Hero pulled this off, and one of the other great elements that they pulled off is the element of color in this movie. How like when you have the surrounding environments when they're yellow, most of the people are wearing
Good
yellow.
point.
On the scene. Obviously, right here, the room is red. They are wearing red. I love seeing the pattern of the colors, and usually you kind of see these type of things, and when a director kind of really goes off the wall to stuff, it can feel a little bit pretentious. But here, you're just like the colors actually make me feel like more glued. I feel different when I feel better when I see it. I'm like, ooh, this is magnetizing. I'm stimulated. It's great to see.
Yeah, Davina Duckworth commented that she thought Hero was a bit more plotting than
That's
Crouching
interesting.
Tiger. But what I would say is that what we're getting at the beginning is history, even by the standards of the movie. The movie's current day. Think about it. What actually happens in the present in this movie? A conversation. Everything else is either a visualization of what the hero is telling the king, or it's background for you to understand the level of conflict that's been going on. So that's kind of little historical background, the army's fighting and all of that. Then what we get is the hero comes in and he's going to be honored by the King of Qin. The conversation is the movie, and it's a battle. It's a war of words.
Yeah. And there's a
In the first-
conversation going on throughout the movie between
Because-
Nameless, aka Jet Li, and the king. And because he's telling his story of everything going on via flashbacks and the buildup that leads to where we are at the movie and the final stages of the conversation. Carry on, Red Shirt.
And the king, the king is literally fighting for his life. He's just using words, not a sword. And at one point, when at one point in the explanation,
There you go, dudes.
if you remember, there you go. Yes.
You're talking about the dress rip-off. There you go.
Yep.
Yep.
Hanky
PG-13
Panky and the
though.
blankie.
Yep.
But I love how the emperor is, so smart in this. He picks up everything, that, and that's not a naked girl there. You're
That's
okay.
a guy.
That's a guy.
Don't be
That's a guy.
sensitive, YouTube.
A guy with long hair.
Yeah.
Guy with long hair. Don't get sensitive, YouTube.
Right.
How do you
of course
really know
he's
it's a guy?
Yeah.
He identifies as a guy. Shut up, YouTube.
I'll bet he does.
But yeah, so
ahead,
you don't,
Mark.
yeah, you no, the emperor, yeah, how smart he was, and he picks up on this right away. He's like, there's no way you could defeat these two great warriors, which was so interesting, and he puts it all together. And his reward was getting closer to the emperor. So I guess the
Yes.
best, you can get what was it, 10 paces or
10
within
10
paces?
steps.
10 paces,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, as the final reward. Imagine that, because the emperor was, well, he's not an emperor of all of China, but he's was considered like a god to these people. So that you're within the presence of divinity if you can.
Well, he's
kill
celestial,
these
as they would call it. He's a celestial emperor appointed
Right.
by the gods. Yep.
Well, he's going to be when he finishes unifying China. But yes, he actually asked him at one point, so you have developed this incredibly precise technique. Is it invariably accurate? And the hero says, it is.
Yeah.
I never miss. And he says, and how close do you need to be in order to make it work? And the hero looks at him and says, 10 paces.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the king then says to him, then I suppose I will not be escaping death tonight.
Great dialogue. I mean, it's just so.
It is.
Yeah, it's just
But
amazing,
but
yeah.
the whole, to me, what was interesting was looking back on this, basically the story, what's going on in the movie that's current, is that conversation between the nameless hero and the King of Qin. And the King of Qin is trying to convince the nameless hero not to kill him.
Yep.
That's the plot. Everything else is history, background, understand what's been happening up to this point. But the movie, the actual current events of the movie are the king honoring the nameless hero for killing the assassins. and he
Yeah,
figures out he didn't do it. He didn't
And- and
actually
you-
kill them.
Yeah, and you don't really get. Yeah, there's not a lot that happens in the present tense in this movie, right? It's probably like 10
Not
minutes
much. No.
of present tense, really. I mean, it's but it's
No, you're right,
framed
Mark,
so
go on.
well. Yeah, it's framed so well that I was, it was interesting to me to watch, what's happening, and it's a mystery that's being unfolded. Sometimes when they have those flashbacks, it's just like it's a boring flashback, and oh, come on, just get through the flashback. We know the two characters are going to kiss or whatever, but there's a lot going on, and the story is really all told in flashback. So I really thought that was well done, and you forget that the movie's subtitled after you keep reading and you hear the voices of the actors. So the only thing it's a pain because you can't be on Twitter at the same time. You really got to pay attention to the movie, but that maybe is to its benefit, right? Because I don't know, I'm always guilty of that at home. It's like my better half yells at me like, turn the computer
that.
off, just watch
Pause
the
that,
movie.
Mark.
Yep, I'll
Actually, can you go back one? Can you go
Yeah,
back
I
one
will, yeah,
frame?
yeah.
2 frames now.
This one,
Okay. The one with the foliage and there's the one character. That
flying.
one. Yeah. So, Nick, I'd agree with you that color is used very intentionally, but it's not always the same color. This is
No,
a fight.
but a
between-
lot of the scenes are. A lot of them are. There's exceptions. This
Right.
is one of them.
But the point is that if you think about it, I think what it is that there's only 1 or 2 colors in most of the scenes
Mhm.
when there's fights, when there's epic battles and things like that. Gray, tan of sand, everything is tan. This is this beautiful yellow forest with the leaves turning, and the 2 combatants are dressed in red robes. So there's no way you're going to miss her right there because
No.
she's bright red against this sea of yellow. So having been interested at one time in color photography, the cinematography in this and the use of color in this to me was fascinating because
It's like a comic book there. They give you that contrast. Yep.
in some ways
that's,
it's similar to the artists, the good artists' work in comic books, so that they make the characters pop against the background. So yeah, color is important. And by the way, in Oriental cultures, I'll just say color is not seen the same way we do.
Oriental.
Oriental. We consider what in the West is considered the color of purity. What do brides wear to their wedding? White. In most Oriental societies, the bride wears red.
You just
Yeah,
had
the
to
red
keep on
dress,
saying Oriental.
But as we know, in
That's so
any
weird.
society, they should be naked.
Oh man.
I've never been invited to one of those weddings, 70s.
But yeah, you make an interesting point because another thing is that when people struggle to understand some of the decisions made by characters in movies like Hero, it's because they're written from a Chinese and Oriental storytelling viewpoint, which is a very different kind of storytelling from in the West. So characters may be given up or sacrifice themselves for what seems like a strange ideal when they're on the point of winning, but then they're revered by everybody afterwards, including their enemies, for it. That kind of thing is quite it's just like an Oriental ideal,
You will
rather
not
than
let
just
go of
this,
this
rather
word
than the
now.
linear, good guy defeats bad guy, everybody lives happily ever after.
Exactly.
No.
Their
you
stories
absolutely
are apocryphal and they are Confucian, and they're very different stories.
Yes.
Don't always go the way you think they're going to go, which
No,
is a
it's
good
great.
thing.
No, so learning, when I was doing some homework, I learned how bad the director of this movie had some really striking OCD, which, I'm sure is not out of place for directors in a nutshell. But Yimou Zhang, I think, is a little bit more exceptional to this rule because in order to capture current scenes and looks of the movie, he had to film very specifically at a certain time. Like I pulled one up from the IMDb where they talk about the lake scenes took several weeks to film because the surface had to be perfectly still and mirror-like while filming. So I'm just like, and so in order to get set, they had to get up at 5 a.m. to really make this happen. And I'm just like, man, that is incredible dedication. And that shit would not happen in an American big budget Hollywood movie out. They would just green screen the crap out of it rather than just do the 5 a.m. and say, oh, God, make sure we're getting ready for this. And we want to capture this perfect lightning in a bottle shot. And if it takes several weeks, fine, fuck it, we'll do it. They would just say, oh, we'll just get it done in one take and it'll be fine. Worst comes worst, it's a few takes, but we can just CG over it with green screen. Green screen will not make this shot look good.
No.
These are striking shots. It is incredible what we're getting here with these shots. It is
And the theater must have so much better, too. I didn't see this in the theater, but...
yeah?
Yeah, and that scene especially reminded me of a comic book, when they stylize the colors and, of course, I'm a comic book nerd, but that really, because they're changing the colors there, and that's...
right.
It's like you're watching an art book. It's like you're watching an art book emotion when you bring it up like that, Mark, and you see an art book and you're seeing the pages come to life like that. Yeah, it's an art book emotion. It is wow to see it. Like, to me, this is the movie that, once again, bringing up Crouching Tiger, this is where the money is at. This to me is where the hype should have been. Not that stuff's ever swayed my opinion as far as how I see movies and what I enjoy or don't enjoy. But to me, for all the hype Crouching got, to me, it should have been all towards Hero. Hero, to me, was the real movie that really nailed this. And, I'm kind of glad we didn't get Jackie Chan as the king. I don't want to see my boys, Jackie and Jet, getting in a fight with each other. That's like dad and dad fighting. And yes, we could say on Toxic Tuesday, dad and dad fight instead of mom and dad fighting. We're going to say dad and dad fighting. I don't need my dads to fight, even though they're both not my dads.
There is a movie where
I don't want it.
I know one movie where they do.
Yes, they do. I don't want it. I don't want it.
But
especially in this context.
The funny thing about that one is that neither of them wins. And that's Mark, as 70s was saying, is a very Chinese thing. They reconcile.
Yes.
They come to the conclusion that neither of us should beat each other because we have more things to do. And it's to a fan of kung fu movies, that doesn't make any sense. You want to watch Bruce Lee beat the bad guy. In that movie, they fight, and at some point they just look at each other and go, "Let's not."
They're interested. They're interested as well as their legend in the future, and with what the people are going to say about them in that legend. There's a lot of that going on here too.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'll agree with you. I just want to agree emphatically with you, Nick. This movie should have gotten more attention than Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon did, but it didn't.
Agreed. It did, but at least it got the right recognition for what it did. When it got its American release in August of 2004, it was number one the first weekend.
It did pretty well,
It did fairly well. It did, for what it was worth, it did well. And at the time, it was the first foreign language film to hit number one at the box office. And this is where I wish Tom was here. Tom, if you're out there listening and lurking, I know you got 900 channels and streams you watch, hosts, guests, lurk, and then while you're working on your 900 history channel. But guess who was a big supporter in getting this movie to America?
Quentin Tarantino.
I was going to give a hint, but
Tarantino.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino, Tom. I think that should say it alone for you because, our buddy Tom, big Quentin Tarantino fan, he was very instrumental in bringing this movie stateside because he's a big fan of Eastern movies. And it's nice to have a guy like that who's in the industry with such a prominent voice be that involved with still helping small movies like this get out there to a wider audience, or at least the widest audience possible. Because nowadays it's just, once again, directors are just the means to an end. They're there to basically just be a director, name only, ain't about a vision, about a director being a director and showing their love of the craft. The Robert Eggers of the world are being less and less. And that's unfortunate because I'm liking guys like Robert Eggers, but we don't have enough of them nowadays. We're lacking in that. We need more of them, guys who just love doing this stuff and they make it their like passion to do these types of movies. And once again, Color Blue right here, absolutely gorgeous shot. And then watching it all like Jenga style unfold. Who would have thought such a simple like unraveling of wood would look actually like gorgeous? It's kind of like how is that gorgeous? Yet here we are seeing that in this movie, and you're just like, bro. And he just walks.
When I saw this scene, you find out later in the movie what his purpose is in doing what he's just done. And what he's doing is he's showing his skill with the sword to these two characters. And that becomes important later in the conspiracy that's being taken out. But at the time I saw this, I didn't know why he wanted to cut down all, tear apart all of those piles of stacked bamboo or slivers or whatever they are. It didn't make sense at the time. It makes sense later. And it's where he proves to them, I'm as good as I say I am. So you should trust me. And that's to me, that's the beginning of the conspiracy, that he brings them on side. So the conspiracy obviously is to kill the king.
Yes.
Spoiler alert for a 20-year-old, more than 20-year-old movie.
Imagine
yeah,
being your name is nameless because you are brought up in the world to fulfill a particular destiny. So you don't get a actual name. That's wild, man, when you think about it. In a world where you have a character named Moon, what's it called? Sky, King. There's no King, like King Chen or something. It's just King. Broken sword, flying snow, and then this guy's just nameless. That's crazy, man. Like I'm thinking, like, what's that like to live in a life where you're brought up and people literally address you as nameless or the nameless man? I'm like, oh, hi, Jet Li. That's nameless. Wow, that sounds really weird to say. Nameless, man. That's
nameless, yeah.
That's I like that still like weirds me out. It's like, wow, that's your destiny life. So it's like, okay, so what happens when you fulfill your mission? Do you get a name after that? Like what comes after? It's like that's as awkward as the whole Def Leppard song, Pour Some Sugar on Me. It's like, okay, the sugar's poured on me. What happens next? It's like,
well, you
like
get burned. You got to go to the hospital from the hot sugar. It's melted all over you.
Oh man, no, it's just crazy to think like that. That's it. Well, after that though, no use for you. So maybe you'll get Epstein or some shit. I don't know what we're gonna do with you, but you made your point, and that's it.
Well, that's an interesting. Your point's interesting. Just to say this, that if he achieves his goal or he fulfills whatever his mission is in life, and he decides this is what I'm going to make of my mission in life, what comes next? Well, we know what comes next. The movie shows us what comes next at the end, and he doesn't have a life afterwards. He becomes a legend.
That's
and he's
true.
always remembered, right? He's remembered forever. Yep.
Yes,
as some kind of reward, as a reward, I guess. Yeah.
He's remember. He was at the final. I'll just say it here to address Nick's point. He was executed as an assassin, but he's remembered, but buried and remembered as a hero.
Yes, thus the title of the movie.
Exactly.
Hero.
And it's
Oh,
not clear
man.
how he's going to be the hero as you're watching his verbal duel with the king play out. Is he going to be a hero because he killed the king of Chin and stopped him from being a dictator to the people and killing people like his entire family was killed by the king's soldiers, or is he going to become a hero for some other reason? And this is where I go back to the whole. This is a story told, and as Brian said, this is a story told from a completely different perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you in a Western movie, you become the hero by killing the villain. Period.
Yes.
That's it. That's how you become the hero. The movie. You're a failed hero or an anti-hero if you don't manage to, and that means they're setting up a sequel.
Yes, yeah, right. Which is
Right.
fine. You know, for me, that's my bread and butter, so I have no problem with that. For me, it's like, hey, you got me, you got my dollar right away. So there's no arguments over here. But this movie fits for it being that one that's it's such a unique ending for something that we don't really see once again in action drama. The hero's ending is a literal sacrifice of an ending. That's incredible. That's a brave ending to have too, because we've gotten this conditioning, which in my opinion is a really good conditioning, where we have an expectation of the type of ending where we want, where it's a slam, drag 'em out, knuckle fight, and we really didn't get that. We had a really deep, moving, thoughtful conversation and a guy saying, I'm not going to do this, and he sacrifices himself, and people knows his sacrifice. It's incredible to do that, and I don't feel like every movie could really pull off that type of ending. I think if this were, let's just say, most American action movies or even American dramas, I think there would be quite a bit of scorn over that. I think this movie did something that most movies could not get away with.
Agreed. Yeah. It's not, again, this certainly isn't the ending I expected.
No.
Oh.
I was shocked at the ending. It kind of left me confused as an eighth grader who's still in was it eighth grade? Yeah, eighth grade, middle school. I almost called it high school. I'm fucking retarded. And I'm like, what? Where are they action? Oh, I get it. Noble sacrifice. I get it now. I just want my testosterone. I guess I'll watch Die Hard 4 when I get home. But this ending is cool for what it's worth. So at the time, I loved this movie. But I was kind of like confused on the ending. And it was definitely something that took later on in my life to really appreciate. Because to me, if something wasn't a punch in the face and didn't leave you the bloody nose after, I was kind of like the guy with the pitchforks, like, what the fuck? Even though I love the shit of this movie, and I still love it now, but now I love the ending that comes. Sorry. Ugh.
Oh, you
Apologies.
okay?
That was man.
Bless
That cough actually kind of pissed me off. Like I hate when
Right in the
I'm
middle of
being
a good
built up
point.
to have a cough, and
Yeah.
then there's a hesitation. It's like, stop fucking wasting my time. If I'm gonna cough, just get it over with, so I can.
Did
just
you
move
turn?
on
Did
with
you
my
remember to
cough.
turn your head to the right?
Yes. Anyways, JT Kirk's been a member for 9 months. He says it's more toxic here than poison dart frog. More toxic than a 5-day-old tip on. Oh, more toxic than Disney Star Wars. Happy Tuesday, rock on, dude. That is a hell of a comment, JT Kirk. And how you doing, dude? Thank you for bringing in. We have a magical guest too, Paulie. He said saw Latino Slant. Said saw Hero in Theater when it came. Incredible to see on the big screen. Love the colors and calligraphy. Yeah, we highlighted the colors a bit earlier, Paulie. It is really an incredible film. And for once again, it's amazing what they packed in this movie. And this is just the hour and 40 version is just the theatrical cut. I think the director's cut's like 10 minutes longer. It's incredible what they accomplished with this movie. And this was a foreign film too. Obviously not an American movie. So I just love that we had something like this at a time where foreign films were definitely it would definitely be more accessible to come out now because of obvious Hollywood pushes. But man, this movie just came out and it was just blowing some minds, and the minds who were blown away by it, they freaking sang the praises of this film. But you know what's one thing I don't feel like I ever saw praise about, even in good reviews for this movie? Because I remember reading good reviews for this when I was that youngin'. I don't feel like I ever, if I'm wrong, so I'm wrong. That's just it. I don't feel like I ever saw enough credit for the music in this movie because the music kind of functions. It's almost like a character. It's not just the soundtrack to show you how to make you feel about a particular scene, but there's obviously that in that fight between Jet Li and Donnie Yen, where they mention how they're kind of do like analogy to fights to music, and the music felt like it was like a background character of sorts to this movie. Did you any of you guys pick up on that at all?
I thought the music was amazing. I was really interested to find out because there's a lot of violin
Yes.
in this movie. The violin in the orchestral parts and the solo was credited as fiddle playing because it was solo violin, although I wouldn't necessarily call it fiddle playing. Was performed by Itzhak Perlman, who is one of the most famous concert violinists of all time. And he provided a major part of the music on this film with his violin, which I'm pretty sure was a Stradivarius. That was the kind. I mean, that's the level at which he was. That was the level he was as a violinist, a professional orchestral violinist. So yes, the music in this film is next level compared to anything I've ever seen come out of Hong Kong or martial arts movies. Totally different feel, totally different sound. And Paulie says, yeah, what a cast also. Yes.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, how incredible this cast was. And I love how as soon as the music stops, it almost feels so up front in the mix. Like it forces you to notice, like, whoa, it's a wholly different atmosphere when you take out the music. And you're seeing, because usually the music is, once again, it's for the viewer to notice. But it's like, some of the characters, obviously the early fight with Donnie and Jet, like, they know the music's there. So that was a cool touch to have them know how important the music was to their fight as well. I'm like, whoa, they're aware of the music, man. I just, to me, that shook my brain up as a middle school. I was like, I was absorbed by all that, and I didn't know how to process. I was like, fuck, that's cool as shit, man. So damn thoughtful. I love it. And it didn't occur to me because of when I saw this in theaters that we're getting a flashback. So I'm like, hold up, there's an order to these sequences. Why am I not picking up on it? And then it clicked. It all clicked. I'm like, oh, I get it now. He's on the stairs telling the story throughout in the order of kings and queens dying. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I picked up on shit a little slower, but once the shit resonated, man. Death within 10 paces. 100 paces away. Go ahead, Mark. You haven't said anything.
The reference to the candles. No, I was gonna say the candles in the scene. How the candles are a giveaway for his spirit, for his ill spirit, and that was beautifully photographed here as well. And the cinematography is beautiful. Paulie was lucky enough to see it in the movie theaters. He said so. It was as good as our home theaters get, and we keep getting bigger and bigger screens. I mean, unless you're, Elon Musk, and you don't have a movie theater in your house, but you just can't duplicate that experience unless you have tons of money. So it's just so much more immersive, and you've really got to pay attention to this movie too to soak it all in it. It's asking a lot of the audience here too to pay attention and the symbolism, and it's just not like this scene here.
Yeah, it's not treating the audience as a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
No, this movie, I feel like this movie is really mindful of the audience and who's seeing this movie. Like, if you're seeing this movie, You're not seeing this on accident, unless you're like a lady with her boyfriend or husband because the husband wants to see Jet Li in action. But outside of that outlier, you're seeing this because you are a fan of the medium of cinema. You are a fan, and that's why you're here to witness this movie. Yeah, I'm glad I got to experience that. I know something too, and this is a very odd detail. And this is not really something people think about in reviews. Did you notice at all, guys? There's not one scene where there's usually you always have a few scenes in almost every movie ever where there's several characters talking. I feel like every scene in this movie had no more than 2 characters talking. It's an odd detail, but did you guys catch on to this? I felt like everything was so like condensed that everything was about no more 1 to 2 voices at each scene. There was never like a big group scene, everyone chanting. It was just really just
Oh,
boom,
that's right.
boom,
Yeah.
boom.
only at the very
It's
end.
really tight on outside of that, but it's really tight on that dialogue like that too, in terms of who's speaking throughout the movie. So that's how much this movie demands your attention too. So you can't even get distracted by a bunch of side characters. You have to pay attention to every single word from every single character because it's all almost completely individual. It's a very unique thing to experience for a movie to do that, and that's not common for a movie to do that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it or even good with it. It's just simply a thing. But that's a very incredibly different thing to do.
Yep. Yeah, and to Polly's point about calligraphy and the significance of it in this movie, when Broken Sword it finally tries to convince his last attempt to convince the hero, the nameless hero, that the king must not be killed, he writes in the sand with the tip of his sword 2 words. And that's significant, and it's told in the post-credit crawl. The 2 words that he writes are the reason that the king must not be killed is the words are our land. And according to the crawl at the end, that basically the Chinese to this day refer to China in Mandarin as our land.
Good. If this gets you to want to watch this movie again, good. Dude, it holds up, man. It holds up. And by the way, chat, I apologize. My fault. This is what happens when you're in the midst of good conversation with your fellow dudes. This is the Rumble League. We will transition in less than 15 minutes over to Rumble exclusive. I will be over there and we can play actual clips from the movie. It's going to be diabolical. So, also too, and this is something I didn't pick on until rewatches, how loud the sounds are, not of the characters, but of like the things that like happen, whether it's like all the wood
swords
unfolding or the rain that drops. Because I watch this on a TV, and I love how the emphasis of the sound around them it makes you feel like you're in the room with them when the rain drops on your head, or when the woods all come around down like a Jenga domino effect. I was like, holy crap! That's something the rewatches was really beneficial, was how loud the environments around them are, from the bows to anything that comes crashing down. It is incredible to see that emphasis of making it feel like you're kind of there with the characters vicariously.
Yeah, the not just the music, but the actual full soundtrack. I mean, I have a very good stereo that plays the sound for my television at home. So,
Nice.
I've got a full blown, old school audiophile stereo that I listen to the movies on when I'm playing them on TV. The sound in this, I noticed that too. The soundtrack of this, all of the sound effects, swords hitting things, when he pierces that one white stick with the sword, and all of those types of things, they're all done with sound accompanying what's going on the screen. If you're watching this movie on a television that only has television speakers, you're not getting, you're missing that part of it.
Agreed.
surround
it's-
sound or a stereo is practically mandatory if you're going to be able to get the full effect of this. Or as Paulie was lucky enough to do, see it in a theater.
Yeah, that would have been
I'm
good.
so I like Polly. I'm glad to say I saw it in the theater. Yeah, I'm really lucky and fortunate I could say I was at a time where this came out and I was able to be see on. This is when I was staying at a theater too. Where this is when stadium seating was a lot rarer. This is not like where it's commonplace now. Over 20 years ago, I was in a stadium style seating. I can remember the auditorium for where I was in this for this theater. It was this brand called Karasoda. So it's a brand that doesn't exist anymore. They got bought up by AMC, but they're called Karasodas. And I remember just watching it, just being blown away. And I remember I had the original DVD. I absolutely misplaced it, but just man, the rewatches when I gather all the sound. I don't know how I didn't notice those things. Maybe just because I was immersed in the dialogue and the action that I didn't catch on to like the music and the sound going on in the room. But man, the rewatches really benefited that. It was crazy how that was to absorb a movie because I wasn't used to those type of things from a movie, and because it's so much fresher for me, I fell in love with it that much more because of it. And oh boy, yeah, Hero definitely like blew my mind. And once again, dude, Donnie Yen, Tony Leung, Maggie Chung, Jet Li, absolutely everyone really brought their best foot forward to their performances. Like the emotion, the sadness, the anger, the deep conversation. And like there's not one part where these conversations feel like, oh boy, we're just dragging along talking. I'm just like, ooh, this is deep here. And in some cases, it's cutting deep, and not just literally, but at times even figuratively.
Yeah, and then even though you have the language barrier, obviously the quality of the acting still comes through with their voices, and of course the great martial arts too. But they emote so well, and you hearing their voice, you get the emotion of what they're acting, even though you don't you
Yes.
don't understand it exactly. It's tough to describe. There was one controversy over the translation of the word Tian. I can't speak. Let me pull this over. How do you
Go
say
on.
that in Chinese? But let me
Tianxia, maybe?
Tianxia. Yep. Yeah. Let me just pause the show for a second, even though we're doing well with time here. But yeah, they said some criticism of the film for the translation, meaning under heaven to mean our world. So in Belgium, it was translated to all under heaven. That's a central point, to the movie too, with Jet Li's character, as he says, that dialogue with the king. So it's localized as our land, seems to know just China rather than the whole world. But he said he wanted the director wanted the film to have meaning to the world, and world unity at the time was difficult to say. So, and that's what happens with translation. Like a lot of us speak two languages, or have family, and like sometimes I'd be with my dad, and I'd ask him like, well, what's the translation for that? And he's like, well,
Ooh,
there is
we
really
got
no
it.
translation. Like, so,
Make
so if you
agree.
ask me if, yeah, so if you ask me if our land,
Tianxia.
Tianxia, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nick. It's weird to say. Sorry. Being
Yeah,
a Nick
I'm
to a
horrible
Nick,
with
that sounds really weird to say. I like that fact right up above Tianxia, though. In the UK, it was 2013 sixth most watched foreign language film on TV. That's, once again, a testament to a movie that comes out almost a decade later and it has that many views on a television. This is when streaming was starting to, definitely have more than 5 people being used. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's not like a new release and then it's hot off the market. That's incredible that it had
Yeah.
that long lasting rewatchability to it. And then once again, not in the US, not in Asia, but in the UK on top of that's man, didn't expect that one on my bingo card. I was gonna say bindo.
Right.
Well, there's that. This goes back to my earlier point about coming from a different point of view, different philosophy. Something, and somebody mentioned Confucius. Confucius, if I remember correctly, was the creator of the philosophy Taoism.
Uh-huh.
And Taoism is Tao means the way, and essentially you could say that it's the right way, the proper way, and kings who follow the way enjoy, the mandate, as is usually translated, the mandate of heaven. Okay. And a king that doesn't follow the mandate of heaven is one that is a ruler who should be deposed and replaced. So I can see the argument that our land versus under heaven would be more, under heaven would be more faithful to the original Chinese language of the film, in that heaven versus earth are essential to Confucianism. That heaven determines what should happen. And I'm talking as somebody who does not truly understand Taoism, and I won't claim to, but probably has more understanding of Eastern philosophy than I do with his martial arts. But the bottom line is, I can see it. Our land is something that Westerners would identify with in the dubbed version. So in a sense, it makes the point appropriate for its audience. Whereas for a Chinese audience, the original Under Heaven would have made a very similar thing. And this is the thing with translations.
Yes, that's what I got. My translation was all Under Heaven. So you watched it in the English? Do you remember? Did they say "our land" in the English?
Our land. They said "our land" in
yeah.
English was 2 words. And he said, I wrote 2 words. And what were those 2 words? And those 2 words were "our land." So that's the English dub version. Yes.
Yeah, was what we got. Yeah. But this was the quote here that's really, really important, I think, is if you ask me if "our land" is a good translation, I can't tell you. All translations are handicapped. Every word has different meanings in different cultures. So Zhang mentions that he hopes the film will have some contemporary relevance in the aftermath of September 11th attacks. The themes of universal brotherhood and peace under heaven may indeed be interpreted more globally and taken to refer to peace in the world. The phrase was later changed in television release version of the film. Like I'd mentioned, one of my dad's favorite musicians was Georges Brassens, French dude, and like you said, there was no you couldn't translate some. He was a folk singer, acoustic, and he would laugh so much, and you couldn't get all the nuances or the translations there with even if you try to go 1-to-1. So that's just something that just you lose a little bit not knowing that language. So I thought that was an interesting part to show. Yeah.
That, Mark.
And
that's freaking awesome.
And that I will say then is one failure of the translation of that, the phrase that is supposed to be what changed his mind. Our land will resonate with people in the West who are, understand it as our country and our, us, as it were. And we should all be together. But it tends to be more of a national concept than a universal concept. So in that regard, yes, it misses the mark as a translation. To the Chinese, different. Again, this is the difference between coming from a Western philosophy, or coming from a viewpoint of Western philosophy versus a viewpoint of Eastern philosophy.
Yeah,
very, very hard to translate. Between
and it seems like they were aware of that things could be interpreted differently in different cultures and ways of life, which is good that there was self-awareness when words like that were written, because just because you see it that way, it doesn't mean it's going to always translate, and that's good. That you got to definitely keep that shit in mind. It doesn't mean to change it, just be aware that it's not going to always have the same meaning every single place, because explaining that to a modern audience, that's language that doesn't that's a language they really just do not understand. You really could never get them to understand that shit if their life dependent. Now, did you guys know there are a few fights in this movie, apparently, and I can
Oh,
never
yeah.
prove this, that are actually pretty real?
What do you mean by pretty
Seriously.
real?
What?
Like,
What?
the fights that happen, apparently, there's some of these fights that happen in the movie, and they're real. They're supposed to be real. And one of them is when Broken Sword and Snow take over in the palace. Apparently, what they're doing that scene is actually happening. I don't know how true that is. Just reading stuff about it. That apparently it is, and that is like, wow, that's kind of hard to believe, but assuming that is, that's a big wow. And then it was when Broken Storm was stopping Snow from helping out Jet Li as well.
But there were no Alec Baldwin moments in this movie then, though. Even though the fights were real, right? Yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, I don't know. Have any of you guys ever seen the tomb, the very old tomb of a Chinese emperor that had the terracotta army?
No, I have not.
No.
Oh, yeah.
The Tang Dynasty you're talking about?
Actually, it was the Qin dynasty.
Qin Dynasty.
The
Okay.
Qin
Yeah.
Dynasty.
It is the first Qin emperor's tomb. We're looking at him in this movie. That's the guy who was buried in the underground mausoleum with literally his army in terracotta guarding his tomb for eternity.
Oh, the education's coming on up.
So as I said to Mrs. Redshirt after I watched this, how much of it's real? Did the Qin King survive assassination attempts? I'm sure he did, because they were at war with everybody else in China at the time. But is this the guy that created the unified country and kingdom and empire of China? Yes, it is, and he's the guy who built the Great Wall, or at least started building it.
All right, chat, in less than 1 minute, we are going to fully transition over to Rumble exclusively.
Completely.
Like, we're going all in, we're transitioning, and we hope you come out with us to transition all the way on Rumble exclusively. So this is your heads up link. Less than 1 minute, we're going all in. In case you don't come with us, you'll be missed. And I thank you for your time. I hang out with us on Toxic Tuesday. I appreciate the hell of it. In case you don't transition, I do want to thank JT Kirk for the member chat, Nick the Greek for his 2 super chats, and of course for Tornado starting off the show red hot with $50 freaking dollars. I mean, set up a gold standard for the rest of the evening. Hell, the rest of the damn week.
Or the year.
I just want to say, you're right. That was incredible. I'm like, holy crud. So I just want to say, guys, like, thank you in case you don't come with us. You are appreciated. And I got a few new subs and a few new faces. I hope you love what you saw and you come back with us in 2 weeks, because next week's a skip week. We will be back in 2 weeks for Rush Hour, which means, yes, you got that right. The week after will be Rush Hour 2. So until then, the rest of you, come transition with us on Rumble. Thank you for supporting Toxic Tuesday. See you in 2 weeks for Rush Hour.